The TDA, developing people, improving young lives.
So let's first look at the informal language. You've done the dear, you've started the letter and you've signed off with from, and that's informal language as well. So I'll write that down as good.
Assessment for learning, as we now know it, is a way of involving children in monitoring their own learning, matching the way they learn to their approach to different subjects in the curriculum, and trying to understand where they have to go to next with any particular piece of learning. So, against the background that we have in the school anyway, of listening to children, school is no longer something that's done to them, it's something that they're partners in.
Park Lane Primary is a one-form entry school in the London Borough of Brent. Assessment for learning in the school is constantly evolving. And as part of an action research project, teachers have been researching different learning styles to accelerate children's progress and encourage more active participation in their learning.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Students in Pippa McGeoch's Year 6 class are no longer grouped according to ability, but are seated in mixed ability groups, which are changed every 2 weeks. Differentiation is achieved through the choice of success criteria in this maths lesson.
Okay, so now that you've seen the different things we're going to do, we now need to think about what choice of activity you're going to make. Okay? Now the first one, this is the easiest one, for those of you that need a bit more practice and to get you started off with this week's learning. The second choice, for those of you that really would like to try working in all 4 quadrants, is going to be an activity that you're going to do with me. The final task, the real challenge, is a game, a bit like the game Battleships, which you might have seen before. If the children are going to be able to assess their own learning, they have to know what that learning looks like and what the actual learning intention was initially, which is why we share our WALT, We Are Learning Too. And then the success criteria is basically a guideline for the children so that they know what they're aiming towards.
Positive 3 minus 4. Positive 3 minus 4. Yes.
It's really important that we remember either along the corridor and up the, or along the corridor and down the stairs.
I'm not, because you don't know where it's going. It's confusing. I'm lost.
Right, don't worry. Right, all you have to do, point, and then join just those 3. So let's do that first bit together. And it has to be X, Y.
Assessment for learning isn't an add-on, and I think it's extremely important because what it does, as well as helping children to understand what they're expecting to be learned, it also helps them to learn how to learn, and also it helps them to understand how well they're doing and how they can improve.
Have a look against the success criteria. Use your highlighters. How could we use these again? What could we do with the highlighters? Hafsa.
We can use the highlighters to highlight bits that they've done good, and probably with another colour you can highlight the things that they need to improve on.
Good. And then
Working with their learning partners, students peer assess each other's letter writing.
Okay. So blue for good work, well, can you write your success criteria? So let's first look at the informal language. Okay. Like, you need to make it more to the point because you're talking like this is her problem, not all that other people's. So
often the children will be assessing their own learning, which I think in some ways is far more valuable than me sitting for an hour at the end of the day, distance marking, and then the children maybe not understanding what I meant because I wasn't there. And I think when children have had that advice of somebody else who's been maybe struggling to learn a similar thing, they're going to take it much more on the chin, because it's somebody in their peer group that said, well, yeah, let's learn this together. Excellent. Right, I see. So why have you highlighted these bits here, Varen?
Because Ismail was trying to keep it more to the point and try to sort it out.
Okay, because she repeated quite a bit, right? Good point. So you can perhaps, if you finish doing this bit, you could perhaps work together on that first paragraph and maybe write it underneath. I realised that if children were going to be self-aware as learners, I wanted to make sure that the children actually had a real part in the whole process. So rather than just choosing their activity and then assessing against success criteria or assessing their learning, I wanted them also to be able to get the opportunity to say what they wanted to learn and how they wanted to learn it as well. And that's why I plan with the children. Now, looking at the first Walt, we are learning how to comment on the style and language of different news articles. Who had ideas for that part of the learning? Charith.
Maybe like a sort of game to match the layout and then match it up with the article that it would go into.
Okay, that's a really good idea, and that will remind me of what you said. Thank you. Any other ideas for this Walt? Lisa?
We might have a bullying page. We could do a bullying page like with the problem page on it. So if people are being bullied and they don't mind writing it, they could write their problems in and we could like give them solutions.
So if we put this maybe adapting text for different readers and purposes, or somewhere here, we could have a range of different types of writing in our newspaper. What about using a range of connectives? What could we do for that?
You could have a game, like you can roll the dice, and if you land on a connective, it will pop up and you could use it.
That's a lovely idea. That would be a nice...
Certainly for the last 10 to 15 years, teachers have been very much given the message that they have to be in control of the children all of the time. And so consequently, I think what has tended to happen is that children have become a great deal more passive in their learning, and teachers are having or appearing to work a lot harder. What Assessment for Learning does is really twist it round the other way, where children have to work a lot harder, or learn a lot harder, I prefer to say. And consequently, that means that teachers have to sometimes relinquish control to children.
Right, you now may open your envelopes.
Culture poems. Your mission is to explore the world of culture poems. You will need to mount a global hunt. Perhaps children in your group know some traditional poetry from their culture.
Students use Jigsaw Learning to deepen their knowledge of poetry genres. This collaborative approach places the responsibility on the students themselves to research any given subject.
Maybe we can use that poem that I just found, that ballad.
Jigsaw Learning I think has been one of the most exciting things I learned about. It's an amazing way of engaging all learners, but making them feel sort of equal importance, which I think is very, very important for children to feel safe to take those risks and bring their learning on.
That's the same one as this. From the first creature we desire increase.
Every second line rhymes.
Yep, it has 14 lines. Check this out. Every one of them have 14 lines.
It's 5 syllables and 7.
Okay, we can do something.
Children have got the opportunity to take the driving seat, if you like, really, with their own learning. I've had times where I didn't even need to really be in the room because the children were so into their own learning and managing it so well themselves. 3s to 3, 4s to 4, 5 to 5. Off you go.
Jigsaw Learning works with students moving from one group to another, envoying their specialist knowledge around the class.
Expert at each table's now got their 3 minutes to envoy. Go.
Me and my group, we were learning about haiku poems. To make a haiku poem, the ingredients are 7 syllables, 5 syllables, and another 7 syllables, 5 syllables, and another 5 syllables.
Shakespeare, because William Shakespeare wrote a lot of sonnets and he was quite good at it.
And we found out about sonnets that they all had to have 14 lines.
What you see is an envoying of the learning, and we had 5 different types of poetry covered over the space of 4 hours, but every child, by the end of that session, was able to tell me about 5 different types of poetry, not just the one that they had specifically researched.
A poem has to have a iambic pentameter.
We are in school. We have called us PLS. We are called fish.
I think one of the advantages of assessment for learning is that it's an idea, it's a philosophy, it's a way of thinking about learning, but it's also very flexible. And depending on the age of the children that you teach, the context of the children, you can actually adapt the approaches, the philosophy, if you like, to your particular children, your particular needs.
Head teacher Martin Francis and his senior management team take an active role in monitoring the effectiveness of these collaborative learning strategies.
We had 3 different tasks.
So you had 3 sets of success criteria?
Yeah.
Okay, so which was the one you chose?
I chose the hardest one, which was the battleships.
So how did you know that you would be able to succeed at that, or didn't you know?
Well, I wasn't sure until I tried.
Okay, and you were willing to go for a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. So Pfizer, you've got the same overall learning objective to do with coordinates, but looks like you've chosen a different success criteria. What's your one?
Yes. Can you plot coordinates using positive numbers?
Did you decide yourself where you were at in terms of your learning about coordinates? And you thought you were still at the beginning? Okay. So both of you, is this a new way of working for you?
Yeah, because I find it that instead of everyone doing the same thing, some people might not understand the work, and then another person might understand the work really well but needs more help.
Right.
So,
and how about the way of working with learning partners?
yeah, I think that's a really good way because we can both help each other.
Yeah.
It's better because usually there's one person who's on a high level and they can help the person who's a little lower.
And how does it compare with the way you worked in other schools?
In other schools there were ability groups and it was always like the higher group, you always think, I want to be on that table, I want to know what it's like. The teachers, they just give you the same work and it's really, really, no matter how good you do, they just keep you on the same table.
And how did it change your attitude when there were no ability groups? What way?
Because I feel like I'm going higher now.
Okay, well thanks both very much.
Okay. A lot of them have said that they feel now much more motivated because we're saying to them, well, you can do this. And they feel that really the sky's the limit for them.
Within the new Ofsted framework, because they do make judgments on teaching and learning, assessment for learning fits in very effectively with that second category. And when we had our Ofsted, I was really heartened by the extent to which they talked to children about the work that they were doing. I thought that was a big departure from just seeing how effectively the teacher put over material without looking at how it was received.